Dan, like, I guess to start us off, can you talk about like um, features of farm country you like to look at, or farms you would like to seek out if you were going to like pick out a farm on a map to deer hunt?
Um, I really worry about access. I like farms that have multiple access from multiple sides. Um, uh, like in particular, like Dave's farm has always been a problem because of a west wind access.
Hmm.
You access the wind to your back, so you're always looking for some off wind, north or south, or you're looking for that east wind, or some way to get back in there without spooking the deer because of that wind in one axis. Now I could work out accesses with the neighbors, but then they're going to feel welcome on the property. You know,
Yeah,
um, the one neighbor has really bad property and he hunts, and I've gone across his property once or twice for something. And when you do, he's always like, "Well, I wouldn't mind going over there and sitting in that corner over by your spot. You can come over here anytime you want." And I really don't even want to have those conversations because then I look like the
yeah,
dick when I'm saying no. Especially knowing that guy would shoot anything he sees, and I'm trying to grow animals. You know,
yeah,
so I try to just go in the access that I have available, and it's hard. So I'm looking for good access. I'm looking for properties that lay out that would have good bedding. So you look at it and you say, "Oh, this would hold deer." When you look at a map of a property, I don't just look at the property on farm country. I back out. How do the neighboring properties look? Now, this isn't that important if it's the only property you have available to you. Well, then you're going to hunt what you have. But if you're looking to lease it, or if you're looking to ask permission or something, if you look at it and you back out, you can see sometimes the properties around it have much more structure, or better property, and you might say, well, geez, if I make any kind of impact on this property, they're just going to run right over there. You know,
yeah.
um, I'm looking for places that don't have other hunters. I mean, that's why you go to farm country in a lot of cases if it's private land. Um, but really, access without being seen or smelled, and good bedding cover, good neighbors, areas with a reputation.
What about like bedding features on a farm? Is there like any particular one you like to see better than the other?
Uh, I guess I like to see um, scattered cover. I mean, different types of elevation. Like I like to see lowland with water, like woodlots that are in the middle are swampy,
Yeah,
um, because they'll hold more bucks. If they got swampy type cover, like low wet tree type brush grass
yeah,
type cover in the middle of the woods, which is common in some farm areas because
yeah,
those are the areas that couldn't be farmed, couldn't have crops put on them, so they leave those natural. So a lot of times the wet areas are the areas left alone. So those wet areas are really good. Um, uh, having more than one woodlot on them, like scattered areas to bed, that they don't always have to be in the same spots. Little hidden spots to the side. It can be just micro little spots of a couple of acres or something that can hold deer. Um, those kind of
So,
things.
so you'd rather have like three tiny little wood lots on a property than one big, big woods.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Um, what about like fence rows and stuff?
Well, fence rows are really good. I mean, especially if they're thick. And what I find on the fence rows is usually, again, and this is farmland in general. If you're looking at like flat farmland, highest and lowest elevations. So when
Hmm.
you're looking at fence lines, I mean, the majority of the time, the bedding is at the highest elevations on the fence line and the lowest. The lower, that down low, kind of near water level, higher grasses, higher,
Yeah.
a lot more brush in the low stuff, and then up high where they can see a ways and get the wind. So they like the highest and lowest elevations along fence lines, but they like that everywhere on the farm. So if you put the cover where those highest and lowest elevations are, and you look for that, generally you'll find some of the best bedding wherever it lays, the highest and lowest elevations. But that's on flat farmland. If it went to like really hilly, then you'd start looking more at the things we talk about in hill country. But highest and lowest elevations, downwind edges, kind of like when they're bedding on that tree line. They're kind of watching one side and smelling the other, right? They got the
Right.
wind coming crosswise. And when they're in a squarish wood lot, if it doesn't have that swampy stuff in the middle, if it's just woods, generally they're on the edge. If it's all the same type of timber inside that wood lot across, they'll be on one side or the other, and it'll usually be the downwind side or the side watching access where people come from. One of those two. It's really, really common in farm country for big bucks to watch the access, because people always come in from the same spot, the same, they park at the farm and they come right out from the same spot.
Right. Which brings you back to why you want multiple ways to access in the farm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's pretty boggling how many people will ask us about a property, and they only have, the first thing they tell us is I only have one access. I park here and go in,
Sometimes you look in there, you're like, well, why couldn't you park here? Well, I could, but this is where I usually park.
right.
And it's like, you
Right.
said you had one access. Well, it's still the same side. Yeah, but it's the other end of one side. Huge
Yeah.
difference.
Oh yeah. Yep. A deer may never expect you to come in from just down the road a little bit.
Right.
So yeah, think about that when you're hunting a farm, especially if it's like big open fields. I mean, deer, they're not dumb. If they can sit there and watch you, it's you're probably getting watched as you walk into a farm.
Right. And I try to do the
Um,
same thing back to them. I mean, I think it's, turnabout is fair play, right?
yeah,
So one of my favorite things to do in farm country, especially if I'm not real familiar with it, is to get off to the side without getting into it too far, without making too much of an impact, and get up really high in a tree, like, and watch the farm in a spot where I don't think I'm going to impact the deer at all,
yeah,
and just watch what comes out where, how it travels, things like that, and just get an idea for how those deer move around, and try to get eyeballs on a shooter. And then
yeah,
you have a pattern. So what I see a lot is you see those deer come out of that downwind side of that wood lot, like I was saying. Oh, they're bedded on that downwood edge. But how do I get close to that? I could never get close to that. If I go in there when the wind is right, the deer aren't there. They're on the other side. If I go in there when the wind's right for the deer to bed there, they see me set up. But when I watch the deer, I find some sort of kink in their armor. Okay, they kind of go over there a little bit. They end up, eventually in that spot. And if I crawled to here and set up there behind this bush, maybe from the ground here, or maybe I can get in that tree, you figure out some plan by watching them from a distance.
yep. That's something like a lot of, not a lot, but like it seems like public land hunters are more willing to do something like that. But guys that just hunt a private farm, then they've hunted it for years, they almost never make some type of a move like that on their private farm.
When we started doing that at Dave's farm, it was really hard to convince Dave of that. When I first met Dave, he just liked rotating through stands like everybody else, and he would shoot every deer he saw. You wouldn't
Yeah.
believe that knowing him in his later years, but it took a long amount of time for him to change by watching my success. But when he finally got on board with doing observations and stuff, we started killing deer and getting onto deer and bigger deer, and then he said it really started to click for him. But he wanted to hunt like every day, and it's 70 acres.
Yeah.
And if you hunt every day, you kick all those deer out of there, and his land is surrounded by better land. It's hunted less. So when I set up some observation stands and put them in permanent places where you sit way back where deer don't go and just watch, and just to make it, in the beginning, and this might help some people who got like a dad or a brother or something who's not quite on board, just to make it in the beginning feasible, I put a food plot underneath it or whatever, and then put Dave there, and you got a chance to kill something here. But you can see through here, you can see through there. And we actually went as far as to take a chainsaw and cut little openings
Yeah.
to be able to see back fields and stuff like that, because you own the property. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he would be able to go out there and hunt as much as he wanted, because sometimes I think he just wanted to get away from the wife.
Yeah.
And he'd go out there and sit, and then one day he'd call me up. He'd go, "Okay, Dan, big buck showed up yesterday, and it was doing this, this, and this." And what do you think we should do? And then you look at the weather, you go, okay, the wind's going to be the exact same. What did the deer do? Okay, so you hunt here and I'll hunt here, and we go in after them. You remember that video of that buck that I shot twice at his farm?
Yes. And you had like a little micro food plot, right?
Yep.
Right in front of his stand. Yeah.
Yep. That buck, Dave did an observation in the front of the farm, and the buck came out into a little field and from the back, right at dark. So he calls me, says he saw that buck, came out here, it's going this way, the wind was doing this, blah blah blah. He's like, let's go after it. I'm like, okay. So as a team, we went in, and he observed a buck, let him pick the spot, and he wanted to sit right where he saw this deer. And I went to the back, and I wanted to pick a spot where I thought it might come out, kind of, or at least I'd see it, you know. And I went to that spot with that little micro plot, and it came to me, and I think it would have eventually went to Dave. I think it was on the same route. Matter of fact, when I shot it, it ran halfway to him. Where we found it dead was on the trail going to his spot where he was sitting. But it was killed because of an observation and then a move in to hunt.
Right. If you want to watch more videos, there's options here and here. And if you want to subscribe, you can just click right here.